Get ready for inspirational, motivational, purpose-driven conversation with Courtney Kittrell and Dr. Pat Baccili. This is Unapologetically Favored, a show where you will learn to be yourself, love yourself, and walk in your purpose without fear or worry. Courtney is a leader of many and a friend to all. She is a passionate speaker, author, and 21-year active duty Master Chief with the United States Navy, here to show you that obstacles are everywhere. But the moment you stop letting your setbacks define you, you start to see yourself in a brilliant new light. Find your confidence, own your power, and never apologize for who you are. Unapologetically Favored starts now.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Unapologetically Favored here on Transformation Talk Radio. You are with myself, Courtney Kittrell, and the lovely Dr. Pat. And today's episode is going to be talking about rejection. Is it for your protection, or is it a redirection of your life and your circumstances of what you're going through? We are just trying to reframe and restructure your mind and your thought process, taking it from the negative to the positive. And again, I am Courtney Kittrell. I am an author, a motivational speaker. I do have 3 books that are available for purchase on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, Target. Anywhere there's an online book retail source, you will find my book. You can also check me out at unapologeticallyfavored.net. So welcome. How are you, Dr. Pat?
I'm good. I like this topic. I like it. Let me tell you why I like this topic, because you didn't know this and I didn't know this when we started to talk about it. Rejection, protection, or redirection. We didn't know that I would be so glued to watching the World Championship field and track and field going on right now.
Okay, yes.
Start on the 15th, going into the 24th. And we're talking about this because there has been a little bit of all of it.
Right.
There's been a little bit of all of it.
Right.
There have been some of the most odd stories to wrap our minds around, why somebody gets disqualified from a race for being too quick out of the gate, like after the gun goes off. Hello, I don't even know what that means. And then there's, Devon Allen, his story of being so fast to 0.001 that not a human being could sit and say, oh my gosh, the machine. I mean, but how do these stories turn out to be something? I don't think when Devon Allen woke up that day that he would realize that he would be the catalyst for changing the landscape of track and field and automatic timers. Do you?
Right. But it's funny because when we start talking about, people's successes and their wins, their rewards, on this end, we always see them when they're in their winning season, right? But we don't really think about the persistence, the work they had to put into it, the continuation of the training, and still going on even after somebody told them no, they would never make it. They're not fast enough. They got to get their speed together. They got to do whatever it is, a little bit more to get to where they're at. And that's what we're talking about today. Just the rejection. And, as we talk about this topic today, I just want everybody just to remember that, your comeback is always going to be better than that setback. But with that, you have to persevere. You have to keep going, even through that rejection piece. It is highly important if you want to get, to your ultimate goal or your destination or where you want to be in life. And when we think about the word rejection, it always comes with a negative thought. The word is being, just negative, period. And we become upset about it. We question what we did wrong, ourselves, our value, our worth. But we are here today to change that narrative, to take the negative out of that word, to give it a more positive vibe so that, you can flourish in your life without feeling rejected, devalued, and unworthy.
Yeah, I love that we're talking about this. I mean, when I first started my show, there were so many people in the New Thought field that wanted me to change a word in my signature. What plays at the beginning of my show? What would you do if you knew you could not fail? I started that question over 20 years ago, and they didn't like the word fail. And I said, okay, I'm not changing it because it's the story of my life.
Right.
I don't know how to, what do you want me to say? How you want? And I got a lot of people, what would you do if you knew you could not succeed? I said, okay, that is not me. I want to know,
That's an
what would you
option.
do if you knew you could not fail? Because
Right,
we feel failure, we feel
right,
rejection. I've
right.
been rejected. You've been rejected.
Oh, honey, let me tell you. So,
Oh my
but first,
God.
I'm gonna say this. You know, we talk about the failure,
Mm,
first attempt in learning, and I tell people it's never a failure unless you decide to just lay down and never stand back up ever again.
that's
That
right.
is when you fail. If you have a setback, it is a learning experience because you learned what not to do. Now that's one X off, and you could try something different because that no just meant next opportunity. But I do remember myself. Oh, I've been rejected a couple of times, and I think that's what has made me more resilient and has kind of brought me back from the dead, so to speak, because it was, I'm not going to play victim. I'm not going to lie down and wallow in my emotions and, sit in traffic on the highway, just not wanting to be here anymore. I had to make a choice, either, just let life pass me by, continue to feel sorry about, for myself, or get up and show people better than I can tell people. There was I had a relationship that went sour, really, really bad. And, I always said I would never be that one to have a relationship, and it just drags me down to the pits. But I turned into that person. I found myself just not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to people. I didn't want to socialize, didn't want to be outside. I'm questioning my existence because it hurt. It
Mhm.
hurt. And you go, and they say it takes double the amount of time to get over a relationship. I don't know if that's true or not. I guess it
I think
depends
it
on the
is.
person. Is it?
I think it's pretty close. And I think
Oh,
it does depend too. Especially, there are stories where, people work together. Although that,
oh, I can't do
oh my
that.
goodness, that's like really, and then there are the whole friend thing. You have a
Yeah,
relationship and your friends divide,
right.
right? So the reason it's hard is because you're not the only player in the game,
Right.
right? It
And
is
it
hard.
messes
There's
with your
no question.
trust.
Yeah.
You have that loyalty and that trust, and you're giving all of you. You're vulnerable with these individuals. You're
Yeah.
giving everything. You're sharing your darkest secrets because you're trusting that they are protecting you. And when you're rejected, or when they, disrupt that peace and that trust in a relationship, it destroys you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. You are a destroyed individual.
Yeah.
But the meat and potatoes of everything is, how do you push past that? How do you get past that? How
Yeah.
did you get past yours?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that you are going to talk about, and it's really important, is the idea of rejection and mental health. Now,
Oh my gosh,
you
yes.
all have heard me talk about, I come from a family where mental health issues and crisis are, my mom committed suicide. So let's
Right,
start off with that.
right.
I buried all my sisters, drugs, alcohol, some kind of addiction going out there. Just saying, my stepmom's heart exploded. So I know a little bit about that. I'm a survivor because there's somebody that stepped out to help me in a way that these folks could not be helped.
Right.
However, when we are rejected, and I'm going to say that because it feels like that. So we
Mm-hmm.
got to get real with the word if we're going to help people with it. It's hard when somebody says, don't feel that way. Okay,
Right.
first of all, you have to understand what's going on with this word. I was rejected from every school I applied to in a doctoral program, every one. Like I sent out 25 applications,
Wow.
but one. And there was a lesson you learned from that. But there are things that you feel rejected. But when it comes to people,
Mm-hmm.
man, that gets at the very core of who we are. But let's talk about this. You and I have something in common. Parents,
Ooh, parental
parents,
rejection.
our family. When the
Mm-hmm.
family rejects you,
Mm.
it's like a capital R. I don't know. What's your experience with that?
So I know. So in my first book, Unapologetically Favorite, I actually talk about that because I have experienced, having an absent parent, my father, and you find yourself questioning, was I a bad child? What did I do wrong? Why doesn't he love me? Just what is your reasoning behind not wanting to spend time? I mean, I didn't ask to be here, and I'm not going to hunt you down. So if I'm here, why are you not reaching out to me, or checking on me, and being my support system when I need you? But as I've gotten older, I think about him what he was going through probably when, I was coming into this world, and the mindset behind that. And the longer, and this is for anybody with parental rejection, or, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. I promise you, it's not your fault. Sometimes, our parents are doing only what they know. And because we expect them to be so great, we elevate them to a level that they are not on. And it only upsets us when they are not meeting the expectations that we're putting upon them. So we become broken. So I had to kind of come back down a little bit and just say, you know what, I'm gonna love my father regardless. If he was to call me right now and say something was wrong, I would be on my way to go make sure he was okay. One, because that is my father. He helped bring me into this world. I appreciate him. But right now he's probably thinking, I don't have an answer to any question that she has to ask me right now. So it's easier to avoid me than it is to come back in my life at the age of 41 years old.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what people think about this, but these wounds go deep.
Oh,
they're deep. And, Courtney and I can be talking about these things right now because we're at a point where we've had some time, right? There's been some time. And what I mean by there's been some time. But I will tell you, I am the person that came home one day and found all of my teenage belongings on the front, in bags in the front yard.
Oh, wow.
And the door locked and could not get back in the house. And it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Right. Not because of that, because I had a brother, a younger brother, who stood at the door as I was standing there trying to make sense of what does this mean? And then I was told, get out. And there I was, just get out. And, there were a lot of things we could talk about what led up to that and how that happened. But to look back and think, I may never be coming back here. I may never see that brother again. I may never be back here. I may never be in that house. That came before, where am I going to go? You see? Now, I'm not going to spend this show talking about how the wounds were repaired in that. They were. And what led up to that and what changed it and what my part was. But in the end, it's still a rejection. It still hurts.
Oh, yes. Never forget it. You never forget it. But it's all about how, you allow yourself to heal from that. Because if not, you're never gonna move forward in your life. It just won't happen.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up, Courtney, because one of the things is it's one thing to have 25 schools just say, nope, you can't come here. We get over those things. Right. Or we have other options. Okay, you don't like me, I'm gonna wait for this other school. Actually, Linda helped me with that. But you know what? Okay, I don't go to school. I'm gonna go to Seattle and I'm gonna just party up on Capitol Hill with my Harley Davidson and my collie. That's what I did.
You were living life at a young age.
I was like, okay, all right. I'm not. But the relationships between people and rejection, how do we focus on that and look at that rejection, protection, or redirection aspect?
So, I have this thing that I share with people sometimes when they're talking to me and I get into my motivational mode. And it was just recently, I think like last week, I started sharing a story about how we always want to grip the steering wheel of our life. We want to grip the steering wheel of our life and drive everything ourselves to where we feel we are supposed to be going. But sometimes that steering wheel, you might find yourself trying to go to the right and the steering wheel is being yanked to the left. You have to let go and trust the process, because the purposes of our lives, even if that includes going against the grain, our family, our friends, our coworkers, whatever, we want to drive that purpose and we don't really care, but we have to figure out how are we going to become disciplined and obedient and trust the process of life, so that you understand that everything happens for a reason. Because when somebody tells you no, or when you feel like you're being rejected, I promise you it's for a reason. That setback is a setup for a comeback. But you will never understand or never get to your blessing, if you continue to hold on to what is tearing you apart, if you continue to hold on what you're supposed to let go, you're never going to grow, and you're going to miss your blessing. You're going to miss your blessing because you decided to still keep turning right when the steering wheel was trying to go left. So the challenge for everybody today is let go of your steering wheel and see what happens. Become obedient, become disciplined, and trust the process of life.
Yeah. The thing that is part of this and is part of this conversation is to really understand what is the impact and what can I do about it? And I think that's what you're covering right now.
Right.
It is really this conversation where, as we're looking at this and we're having a conversation about it, it doesn't mean we don't look at it and understand, but I like it. There's that song, Jesus Take the Wheel, right?
I know, that's where I got that
song?
from.
Yeah, that song. But part of what people can learn is not just about how to do this, but how you did it. Let's talk about you for a minute. You have created so many ways to help people.
Right.
And I want to make sure they know how to get copies of your book, but also to get copies to find out how to work with you. Let's give people some information, because this is not just you and me talking about this. This is about understanding, talking about it, but then putting things in place to help other
Right.
people. Isn't that what
Right.
you've done?
Yeah. So if you, I ask everybody, if you hear me, you like me, you love the conversations me and Dr. Pat are having, follow me on all my social media platforms. I am on Facebook at Unapologetically Favorite. I'm on Instagram at Unapologetically CAK. You can also find me on Twitter at the letter U Favorite Podcast. And you can also check out my website, unapologeticallyfavorite.com, where you can actually catch up on all the past podcasts and conversations and everything that I do as far as media and broadcast. And you can also purchase any one of 3 of my books: Unapologetically Favorite, Wake Up, Turn Up, Bless Up, and Never Be Afraid to Eat Alone. Everything that I do is about motivation and inspiring people, because, I've been rejected. I felt that pain. I know that hurt. Sometimes I catch myself still licking the wounds, but, it's all about how you heal and persevere and cope. Just trying to find a different way of looking at what's going on in your life. So yes, please, by all means, check me out. Send me some inspiration, motivation. Let's have a conversation.
I was looking at something this morning. So talk about this for a minute. Let's talk about what the difference is between me holding the wheel. I'm holding the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know, look, here's the thing, right? Let's just talk. So we're going to talk about Jesus Hold the Wheel. That's a little country song, I think, right there with that, right? We got that one. Jesus Take the Wheel. But there's another country song. You got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them.
Mm-hmm.
And the meaning of that song for me is exactly what we're talking about today. There's a point in time where you realize that you need for God to do for you, or whatever you believe in, God, Allah, Ba'ahullah, whatever you believe in, to do for you what you are not able to do for yourself at this time.
Right.
That's part of the rejection, right? It's also part of, the redirection part, because redirection, a big part of redirection, just like you've been doing since I've met you, that's what you've been doing. But you've been creating and redirecting and creating and redirecting. What have you learned from that?
Taking your energy, the negative, and letting it fuel your positive. That's pretty much what I've been doing over the past 4 years now. Or pretty much all my life. But letting that negativity fuel you, letting that anger, that upset, your personal roller coaster that you find yourself on when you're rejected from whatever it is, because we all go on this personal roller coaster. Your emotions are going, you're depressed 1 minute, you're happy 1 minute, you're crying the next minute. Now you're mad, you're angry because how could they do this to you? You know what? Then you get really angry, forget them. I spit on a grave that they're going to be buried in. You start coming up with these things. But it's getting through that. I've learned from everything that I have been through that everything has a reason. Had I not had the parental rejection, I would not be able to relate to other people that go through that and be that example of you can still make it in your life and become what you want to become. Had I not had a very sour relationship, I probably would not be cherishing and being grateful for the relationship that I have now and doing, just being happy because I know what it feels like to have the worst. So everything that we go through with this rejection, and ultimately it's a lesson. A lot of times it's a piece of protection from what could have went wrong. You could have been in a very bad relationship. That's why that person never called you back after that date. You could have been in a bad business organization. That's why you did not get hired at that job that you were planning for. There's so many things that could happen, and your life is taking a different turn towards that blessing or that wish or that want that you asked for. So take your hands off the wheel, be obedient, and let it happen. Let it happen, but try to cope as you're going through that emotional roller coaster.
Can I tell you what I had a little, okay. Can I tell you what I had a little moment about today?
What? Please tell me.
All right. Okay. So I never know what's going to hit me. And then I have to stop for a minute and I have to realize, what is it about this that's hitting me? And I think for me, I love track and field. I'm watching it. I also love the sport that I play in. I'm in a championship. I'm in a state championship this weekend.
No.
And I don't know what it was about a headline that I read this morning. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. We got to stop for a minute, because we're talking about people that are unapologetically favored. And what I reacted to was a headline that came out of one of the magazines covering the track and field.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about Alicia Schmidt, the German athlete, right?
Okay.
She is called the world's sexiest athlete. So the headline is, world's sexiest athlete, Alicia Schmidt, suffers heartbreak at the World Championships. Okay. I don't know if she's the world's sexiest athlete. I mean, I could point to a couple of people right now.
Who voted for that?
Like I could tell you, like, there's a couple of people going to be running right now that just pretty sexy. They're just pretty sexy women. But seriously, so I have this weird thing, and what I realize is, wait a minute. She gets to be unapologetically favored for being herself.
Right.
Whether I agree or not agree. So let's talk about this, because 9 times out of 10, aren't we hit up with what other people are thinking or saying about us? And isn't that really what's fueling this whole conversation today?
Right. Yes. We are so consumed with worrying about what everybody has to say. And it's funny you said that, because over the past 2 days, I don't know if you remember, but one of the Navy carriers, the USS George Washington, was all in the headlines because of all the suicides that they encountered with some of their sailors.
Yep.
So I had the honor of visiting them, spending time with them over the last 2 days, doing a coaching leadership course with their leadership on the ship. And during one of the classes, their chaplain came on over the loudspeaker, and he did a prayer that Mother Teresa she wrote. And I don't remember exactly all the words. I got to find it, because I said I'm going to look for that prayer because I loved it. And the words kind of went like, people are going to talk about you. Let them talk about you. They're going to do it anyway. The times you feel like giving up because somebody said that you couldn't do it, show them and do it anyway. And I love how that theme went, because we have to realize it doesn't matter what somebody thinks about us. It's all about how we feel, our confidence level, our self-esteem, and what we think and love about ourselves. That's it. So when you are rejected, when somebody tells you no, when you get turned down, you know what? It doesn't sting as bad, because you know that your time is coming. You know that no just meant next opportunity. You know that maybe that rejection was for your protection, because you might have been stuck in a spot where you would never be able to get out of. And now you're like, I should not have done this, and I'm living with regret. Yeah. So, don't worry about what somebody thinks about you when you're going through this process. Do it anyway, because they're going to talk about you anyway. I just love that.
I love that. And, maybe during a break, you can find that prayer. But I think that what you just shared is really important, because isn't that prayer really the essence of what we started to talk about? Jesus, take the wheel, or let go of the wheel, or whatever your version of the wheel is. If you have a death grip on the wheel and your knuckles are white and your hands are starting to bleed, that is a little indication that you are just holding on way too tight. But let's talk about why we do that. Okay. Because this is really what we're going to talk about when we come back, because there's a reason why we hold on to this stuff. There's a
Right.
reason why we're holding on to the death grip. Like people that said, nope, you are not going to be in a relationship with me anymore. And we're like, oh, really? I'm not good enough. You're not what? You're not what? No, you're called to be alone. What does that mean? I mean, we could go
Right.
through this a million times,
Right.
but what we do with this, and congratulations on you for being able to help people. You and I know, we know what mental illness is about. I am the
Yes.
surviving member of my family. I am
Yes.
my mom, suicide, my sisters, all three of them, drugs, alcohol. I watched my beautiful sister Joyce, throat cancer, cocaine
Right.
will do that to you people.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. I watched my stepmom's heart explode.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't words for this. But what can we say to those people that don't want that legacy, that can get some help? And here's what I'm happy about and not happy about. I'm happy about the story you just told because we're shining light on mental illness.
Right.
I'm happy about that. Simone Biles, I'm always
Yes.
going to have your t-shirt. There's
Yeah.
no question about it. I don't care. I'm going to buy whatever you make. I'm happy about that. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
not happy about is how we're not responding to the call to action,
Right.
and how assiduous the nature is, and not everybody has a Courtney Kittrell. Courtney, why don't we go to a break? But before we do, let's tell folks how they can find out more about you. Tell folks what you're up to. I like to call you
Oh,
Master Chief.
oh, yes, Master Chief, United States Navy. Getting ready for retirement though. It's very soon in my future though. I am gonna say that. But yes, by all means, follow me on my social media. Facebook, Unapologetically Favorite. Instagram, Unapologetically CAK. Twitter, the letter U, big U, favorite podcast. And yeah, my website at unapologeticallyfavorite.net. You can actually reach everything if you go on my website, including my books, my motivational apparel and gift line. I also have that. I almost forgot about that too. I actually still have that as well, and it's doing pretty
Yep.
well. So, check it out. Be my friend. Tell me your motivational story so we can actually share you for the world to see. So, yeah.
By the way, I want to say this. One of the hardest things for people like me to learn in my life is how to reach out for help. And what I want to say to all of you is Courtney is there for you all to reach out. Courtney is there for you. And that is a thing that I think back on my life that wasn't available for my mom, for sure. Wasn't available for my sisters, for sure. It wasn't available because, first of all, even talking about things that had to do with mental health was just like not the thing to do.
Taboo. It was
It was
taboo.
taboo. And if you come from certain families, if you come from certain heritages, if you come from certain cultures, you don't even say that word. When we
Right.
come back, and by the way, that is a form of inner rejection. See, when
Right.
you are invisible, you are being rejected. When we come back, how you cope with all of that, that's what Courtney's going to walk us through. She's going to take us on it, because you will need to cope with it in this world. Right, Courtney?
Let's heal. Let's heal it.
Yep. And do not take somebody unfriending you as a life-changing event.
Right.
Lydia,
That
let's
was
take
protection. That was protection.
that's protection and redirection.
Right.
Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Unapologetically Favorite, here with myself, your host, Courtney A. Kittrell, and the beautiful Dr. Pat. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about rejection. Is it for your protection or redirection? But before we continue on, listen, if you aren't doing it right now, check me out on my social media platform, Unapologetically Favorite on Facebook, Unapologetically CAK on Instagram, and also on Twitter at the letter U Favorite Podcast. We love sharing stories about motivation and inspiration. Both of us are just trying to be who we needed, at a certain point in our life. So we love sharing this platform. But we're talking about rejection. And right now, the question is, how do we cope with rejection? Because rejection sends you on your own little personal roller coaster, and it can make you feel like you're not worthy, you're not wanted, you're not valued, and it can cut deep. And depending on the relationship from which the rejection came, sometimes the rejection can hurt a little bit more than others, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And let's just define rejection for a minute, because a lot of people may think, okay, rejection means, let's say, for example, somebody has to do something for you, but the
Right.
word is really used more broadly. And this is why I think earlier on in the show, you talked about rejection, protection, or redirection.
Mhm.
And some people may think, why are you talking about athletes? Why are you talking about athletes and rejection? Well, look, clearly some of these people suffered what I consider to be rejection in the hands of other people not using
Right.
their brains very well.
Right.
I mean, Devon Allen, 0.001 of a second reaction time. Um, uh, but clearly it's how you take that in.
Right.
If you lose a race, you're losing a race.
Right.
People don't always put it under rejection, but there are some things that are clearly in the range of rejection.
Right.
Divorce. You get a divorce, and if you're not the one like doing the divorcing, you're like the other one. How do you think
Right.
that feels, Courtney?
Oh, listen, because that's somebody, again, it goes back to, you have been vulnerable with this person. You have built a strong emotional, spiritual, mental, everything that has an oil at the end. You have, shared that and built that over time with the individual and given all your love. And I cannot even, I have been divorced, but the thing with that for me was I was okay with it because I just my mindset is a little bit different. But for those who are on the receiving end of getting a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, how your life is flipped upside down because in your mind you probably never saw it coming. You had plans and goals and just things to do, and now
Mm-hmm.
you feel like you have hit the reset button on your life. And what are you going to do now? How do you rebuild? How do you cope? Because if one person says, I don't want you, you're not worthy enough of my love, you're going to think that everybody from here on out is going to feel the same way.
Yeah.
So, trying to figure out how to cope, that's the hard part because we don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how to cope.
Yeah. And I got to really get to something here that is really important to me right now. And I think probably just because I got off talking to Dr. Crystal Crane here not too long ago, there are rejections that affect an entire group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk about that. It doesn't look. You can make a political opinion right now about Roe v. Wade. That is not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about a group of people. They're called women who
Right.
feel like their bodies that's their right. Then I'm talking about other groups of people that feel like they have been not included in society,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
and you could look down to color, you could look down to sexual orientation, you could be looking at our transgender population right now, who is
Religion.
feeling highly threatened.
Right. Right.
Little clause putting that RV Wade thing. But there are people that have experienced this level of rejection their entire lives and still do.
Right.
I cannot even imagine what that is like, because when the rejection is real,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm meaning you are now made invisible, and it happens within the family unit. I mean, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I got relatives that are banned from the family.
Woo.
They're just like banned from the family. But there are so many layers of this that people have to deal with. Let's talk about the fact that we have to get at the layers in order to cope and heal.
We do. And just to get this out there, I just wanted, I'm gonna share this. If you're going through this and you're dealing with the rejection right now, you're dealing with this setback, this emotional, personal roller coaster that you are on, and you're questioning your existence, your worth, your value, your confidence is sunk. Just I want you to just listen to this. The first step that you need to do when it comes to coping with your rejection is to acknowledge where your pain is coming from. Just acknowledge where your pain is coming from. Understand where your pain is coming from. And I think sometimes people don't really think they might be like an emotional outburst and don't really understand, like, hey, the reason you're like this is because you haven't healed these wounds over here. And I think like subconsciously, maybe you're still thinking about it, is still weighing on your soul and your spirit and your mental, and you're trying to disconnect, but you're still connected because you're having these outbursts. But Acknowledge your pain. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself for it. It sometimes the people or the things that we think are good for us, we might not be good for them. And it's okay, because you get to a certain point, something fizzles out or it doesn't happen. It's okay. Reframe your mind to know that, hey, you know what? This was my protection from whatever may have been in your future that you were unaware of, or it's going to be the redirection towards what is ultimately supposed to be meant for you. Find your resiliency. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I want to talk about this for a minute, because let's tell people what redirection looks like. I mean, I think people have a sense really when we say the word rejection, but when we come to protection or redirection, we can really look at that. And it really is based on what we do after the rejection, right? Talk about that for a minute, because even if you move to redirection and protection, you still may have some healing to do.
Right. But that's where that resiliency piece comes in, and trying to find out, what is your purpose when you wake up in the morning? What is it that, now, it's gonna, you got to find that now that you don't have that happiness that you had or you thought you were going to get. Okay, now let's not put all your eggs in one basket. Leave some eggs out for something else, so that, when that basket falls and all them eggs in that basket just break, you still have these eggs over here that you can fall on. And it's trying to find that passion, find that healing, finding that friend, that pressure release valve, so to speak, that you can, go to and just cry on their shoulder and get it out. But then say, you know what? Let me wipe these tears off my face, put my big girl panties on, and go out here and show people better than I can tell them. Because a lot of people are sitting around waiting to see how you react from a situation. And when we are balled up in the floor crying and playing victim because we have fallen, they win. They win over us. Don't give nobody that satisfaction. Get up, go out there and conquer life.
And I got to tell you, COVID has really opened up the door for a much bigger conversation about how many people have felt rejected, how many people have gone through. I mean, that in itself, but I don't think we need to go through the details of that for everybody listening to this to agree that you all have been faced with some circumstances in your life that you never would have had to face before. And you have seen the face of rejection time and time again, over and over again. You've seen it. You've had to learn new ways of being. Some of you have found yourself without a career anymore. You have found yourself without a job anymore. If you're a small business, you're scratching your head right now because you got your notice from the government for your loan, your EI disaster loan. You got your nasty government letter that just came to you, very little personal anything in there, saying, hello, we're not going to defer this anymore. You need to pay up. And you're thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, I'm trying to bounce back. And there's something really devastating about the word trying. There's something that when you use the word trying, you are really crying. So when you say trying, you're really crying. Right? You know what I'm saying? When you say, I'm trying, but you're really crying. Right? Trying is a word that we use to hide the emotional feeling that we have already felt.
Right. It's a cover up. And I'm like, and for me, I'm like, when you say trying, I'm like, it's like saying you're almost pregnant. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it. Which one? You can't be almost. Like, you can't be almost pregnant. Either you are or you're not. Don't try, just do. Because the way you start to think is the way you start to act, and you start to live, and you start to believe. If you're always in that in-between stage, you're never going to be confident. You're always going to be kind of skeptical. So it has to be the black or white. Either you are or you're not. I don't really like trying. When I'm trying, like it. Oh. But I did find that poem, though. If you want to hear it.
Yeah, I want to hear the poem, because then that's going to lead us into a personal story. Well, but a story you're going to share. Okay. Because so I love this story that you got coming on here. Anytime you want to be talking about potatoes, eggs, and coffee, I'm like all about it. But I want to hear what the prayer. You want to tell us about it?
So this was a prayer. It was found written on the wall in Mother Teresa's home for children in Calcutta. And it says, people are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend, what you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight, but create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous, but be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. And the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. I love this poem.
I need to hear that too. I want to
anyway.
Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for reading that,
Yeah.
because it is a great reminder of not only certain lessons in the way she lived her life,
right?
Because this is a woman that did not get the support to be doing what she was doing.
No.
Let's
And
just
did
be
it
very
anyway.
clear about that.
Right.
Yeah, like forever.
Right.
But she did it anyway.
Right.
But in this world we live in, there are things that we can observe about ourselves. And there's just like this really cool story that you're going to share with us now.
Oh, I love this little story.
I love this story.
I thought it was the cutest little thing. And it, and it kind of just makes you think, who are you? When it comes down to everything, who are you? So the story is potato, egg, and coffee. And it says, once upon a time, a daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and that she didn't know how she was going to make it. And we all have been at that point. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just as one problem was solved, another one soon followed. Her father, who was a chef, took her to the kitchen. He filled 3 pots with water and placed each pot on a high fire. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in one pot, eggs in the second pot, and ground coffee beans in the third pot. He then let them sit and boil, and without saying a word to his daughter, they boiled. The daughter then moaned, was impatiently waiting, wondering what her father was doing. After about 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of one pot. He placed them in a bowl. He pulled the eggs out of a pot and put them in a bowl. He then ladled the coffee out and placed the coffee in a cup. Turning to her, he asked his daughter, what do you see? She replied, potatoes, eggs, and coffee. He said, look closer and touch the potatoes. She did, and she noticed that the potatoes were soft. He then asked her to take an egg and break it. After pulling off the shell, she observed a hard-boiled egg. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. Its rich aroma brought a smile to her face. And she said, Father, what does this mean? He then explained that the potatoes, the eggs, and the coffee beans had each faced the same adversity, the hot boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong and hard and unrelenting, but in boiling water, it became very soft and weak. The egg was fragile, with the thin outer shell protecting the liquid that was on the inside until it was placed into the hot pot of boiling water. Then the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique in that after they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something entirely new. Which are you? The dad asked the daughter. When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee? And the moral with this story is that things in life happen around us all the time. They happen to us. But the only thing that truly matters is what happens inside of us. Are you a potato, an egg, or are you the coffee?
I love that story. And I love that the story is, talking to, somebody young. Because I don't know about you, I've been all 3 at different points in my life. And I would like to think right now I'm the coffee.
Yes.
And I'm like so many people. When you turn 40, I really did. I went from, I think, the egg, and I really did. I remember this, the potato and the egg thing. And I looked in the mirror one day and I said, I don't like potatoes and eggs anymore, but I didn't quite know what to do. That's a transitional piece, isn't it? And that's what we're talking about today. And isn't that at the core of what you help people get to?
Right. Instead of, and it kind of goes with, I was scrolling through TikTok one day and I came upon an interview with the co-founder of Twitter, Biz Stone. And he started talking about, it was like opportunities, right? Opportunities. And I am all about opportunities. And it kind of went parallel with what my thought process is when it comes to opportunities. And he said, opportunities can be manufactured. But when he said it, I was like, that really doesn't, let me see. But it makes sense. We want success in life. We want to be wealthy. We want to be leaders. We want to make an impact. We want to have a legacy. But we don't understand the hills and the mountains that we're going to have to climb in order to get that, because we are in an Amazon Prime era where we want to order our success on Amazon and have it dropped off on our front porch. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of people miss the blessings in their life because, to get to that, it requires work. So, when we come back to changing your environment, change your environment. Create your opportunity. If somebody tells you no, or you feel like you're being rejected, you know what? Go somewhere else and do it anyway. Go somewhere else and start manufacturing your opportunity. Go somewhere else and be the coffee. That's what matters. You can't always wait for somebody to come to you and give you what you want. Sometimes that rejection is meant for a redirection, because it's supposed to redirect your thinking to say, you know what? If you're not going to give me what I want, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to work on it, create it. You're going to be mad, but I'm going to create it anyway.
Yeah. I want to talk to something else, and I would love for you to talk to it too, because this is a point that we've made in previous shows we've done together, but I need to bring this point up.
Okay.
There are points in time in life when you have this realization, and you have to look around at who's in your world.
Right.
I don't mean like peripherally in your world, like,
right.
The people you play ping pong with, although I am a little bit fussy sometimes about that.
I'm coming to see this one day.
Yeah. But here's the thing. When you get to this place and you have the realization that you're turning into coffee, or you want to be coffee, you will find that as you look in your world, there are some people that you will be bringing with you, and there will be some people you have to decide not to bring with you.
Yes.
Because if you do not do that, you will turn into coffee that is the most bitter. Can't drink that stuff. Like my dad used to make that mud that a spoon could stand up in. But you see, we've talked about that in previous shows, but it's all part of this as well, isn't it?
It's part of the process. And that's another part of, all of this deals with personal growth. All of this deals with, the positivity, the inspiration, the motivation, the purpose-driven lifestyle that we all want to have. And rejection is part of that. Being successful requires, a little rejection. But when you're going through that stage of rejection, you're going to lose some people. When you start creating and doing, what you are passionately in love with doing, you're going to lose some people, because they might become jealous, because in their mind, you're not supposed to be doing more than them, because y'all are in a relationship, whatever that relationship, makeup may be. Not intimate, could be just be friends or family or whatever. But you will find that some people will fall off. They will fall off. But we have to remember that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. If I decide to get up every morning and work out, and I'm disciplined, I'm obedient, I'm doing what I have to do, I'm going to lose the weight that I say I'm going to lose, And you can't get mad if you're still in the bed in your sleep. You had the same 24 hours in a day like I did. But that's where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of these things that, we can have on an entire another hour in conversation on, because the difference between and I have to say out front to everybody, just to be clear, the decisions that I've had to make when discovering that I wanted to be the coffee wasn't quite the coffee yet. I knew I didn't want to be the egg anymore. And I knew I definitely we're going to have to live with the fact that everybody sees me as a potato. So I'm just, but this decision point where you get that awareness now, like what is possible for you, get it. You may not know how, but you get it. The hardest decisions I've ever made is sifting through and learning discernment, and then having the courage to say, I've loved our journey up to this point, but this is what I need in my life right now.
Right.
I need the support for the decisions I'm making.
Right.
And it's really hard to be around you when you want me to stay the way I was.
Right.
The hardest thing that anybody could face is when I decided to stop drinking. I never got more people that wanted to give me a drink than, oh my God. But this is really a crossroads, isn't it? And,
It is.
Courtney, I know this is at the core of what you do.
Right. And not, I remember and I'm not gonna say I had a friend, because with me, I don't think things are ever really done, ended, over. But we were very, very, very close. And just over time, you kind of just outgrow people, and that is okay. That's part of life's process. Everybody's not meant to go on a journey with you. So if you have to, cut ties, and that even includes with your family, it's okay, because you have to do for you. You have to cope and change and be the coffee and, manufacture your opportunities and understand the word no means next opportunity. You have to focus on you, because people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to bring you down. They're going to talk about you, but you got to always remember to just do it anyway. That's about to be a whole nother topic on the show. I can tell you that right now.
I think we have to do that show, because I think it really is the reason you and I are still alive and well and
Right.
have a vision for our future.
Right.
I mean,
because we did it anyway.
we did it anyway. But I will tell you now, I wake up every day of my life in deep gratitude for my best friend, Linda, and her
Mhm.
family, who, despite how crazy I was when I was younger, loved me, stayed with me, helped me. And Linda's mom showed me how to set a table properly.
The place settings, yes.
And that's part of the journey too, isn't it, Courtney?
It is. It
Mhm.
is. And that's what we want people to know. Life is not going to be easy, but it's all about the ones that surround you at your darkest times. They motivate you, lift you up, and add value to your life. So you'll never have to have a moment to devalue yourself. Keep pushing through.
Courtney, what a great show. Thank you. Again, please tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Yes.
And we've already talked about now like 2 or 3 future shows, like in this show that we got.
I don't want to show, right? That's why I love these conversations with you. We are like on a roll. This is why we do what we do. But yes, if you haven't done so already, check me out on Facebook. I'm on Unapologetically Favorite. Instagram, Unapologetically, the letter CAK right after that. Twitter, the letter U, Favorite Podcast. And also check out my website, unapologeticallyfavorite.net. You will find a plethora of things on there, past podcasts, new podcasts, all that good stuff. So please, send me some motivational. I love talking to people. I'm a people person.
Yeah. And I'm going to say to people, you want to know something? You know what Unapologetically Favorite is for me? I'm just going to end with this, because I know you all are doing it right now. I can feel it. Here it is. You are, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm sorry for being as great as I am. I'm sorry for being favored. I'm sorry for,
Right.
being in the world and being of the world. I'm sorry. I'm
Right.
sorry. I'm sorry. We want to help you say,
I'm not sorry.
thank you.
Mhm.
I am unapologetically favored.
Unapologetically favorite. Everybody.
I am unapologetically favored. So, okay, root for me in my table tennis tournament this weekend. Courtney
will be.
Kittrell. Courtney Kittrell, I'm Dr. Pat. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Unapologetically Favored. When you stop worrying about what others think and start walking in your purpose, you allow yourself to grow, you discover all the gifts you have to offer the world, and everything begins to shift from uncertainty to possibility. Can't get enough? Unapologetically Favored is also a book. Bring home a copy and learn more about Courtney by visiting unapologeticallyfavored.com. We will see you right here next time. And until then, keep walking in your purpose.